recorded live.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Genesis Science Fiction Radio Show, a service of the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website. This is your October 17th, 2014 edition, and just so that you know, in case you're about to buy an expensive gift or you are inclined to, tomorrow is my birthday, so you can send things care of the site or just email me big presents or send me big boxes of money. Tonight we're having a special guest. Actually, they're all special, but we have Seta Aset, who is an author. She at least has a trilogy already published. It's out there. And, well, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, William.
You're welcome. Anyway, so where are you coming to us from?
Actually, I'm coming to you from Knoxville, Tennessee, a little town in Knoxville, Tennessee. Well, it's not a little town now. It was then, but a city from Knoxville, Tennessee, just east of Nashville.
Oh, that's not bad. What's your weather like?
The weather is cool. It's pretty good. I was born and raised there, and you know, I was the ninth child in the family. And I just born and raised and grew and raised there and grew up as a normal kid would.
Have you been there all your life, or have you lived anyplace else?
Yes, actually, I left Knoxville, and so now I'm in Alabama. And the weather, of course, the weather's beautiful here. It's nice and warm. We still have flowers growing. It's still green. There is no change in the usual fall leaves. It seems like it's summertime down here.
Yeah, no signs of impending winter, right?
None at all. We have cool nights, but other than that, it's beautiful.
That's great. Okay, so, well, let me ask you this. What made you move there from your childhood home? School, family?
Well, actually, I was searching for a different type of lifestyle. Being surrounded, and I'm, don't get me wrong, the mountains are beautiful. I love it. But being there for so many years, I was just ready for a change. So basically, I was looking for the beach. And
okay.
yeah,
all right.
I love the water, and I was looking for the beach, and of course, my personal life brought me here as well, and so I ended up staying, and I love it. I like it.
Were the police chasing you or anything, or was it some other kind of personal life?
It was some other kind of personal life.
I was just, I was wondering because I have friends who move, a couple times a year because they don't pay their bills and, they got outstanding tickets. So you always want to know. Normally I don't talk about anybody's police record, but, sometimes it's good to get it cleared up right away. I mean, I really don't have anything to talk about, since one of the reasons why I'm able to do the radio show is because I have a sheriff's ankle bracelet on and I have to be in when the street lights come on anyway. But that's me. So okay, let's talk a little bit about your early experience. I mean, have you been a writer all your life? Is this something that came to you later, or did you have like a child's imagination that kind of translated itself into storytelling?
Well, actually,
how did it all start?
It all started at high school.
Okay.
And once I left intermediate school, well, what we would call middle school, because there wasn't any intermediate school back then, I got into drama class, and I loved drama classes. I wrote some drama classes, I wrote some plays, and I, participated in some plays, and I just kind of got hooked. And then, being from a family, well, my maiden name is Jackson, and I had 5 sisters. So everybody called us the Jackson 5 because all the girls could sing. You know, the boys didn't get the gift, but all the girls could sing. And so, you know, I started singing at one point, and I kept that up as a teenager, and got into this band called The Main Ingredients, and we were pretty good, if I may say so myself. And I wrote my own songs, and of course, you know, songs are poems, and that's where I got my niche for writing. So I said, you know, instead of putting the music to the words, why don't you just write essays and poems? So, you know, that's how I got into it.
Did you get published?
No, not then. Of course, you know, I was a teenager and a young woman around 20, 21. So at that point, it didn't cross my mind to get published for my poems. It was just something that I was interested in doing, you know, that I like to do in my spare time.
So, you know, so you're a singer.
Yes.
Probably the headliner, right?
Well, that was a long time ago, and I was the headliner a long time ago.
Right, but yeah. I mean, you know, it's kind of cool because, you know, when people manifest a certain amount of talent at a younger age like that, not all of them do, you know, step out and create, you know, kind of, their talent doesn't manifest itself in a big way. You know, like some people will draw, but they won't show anybody, or they'll show people and only draw a little bit here, a little bit there, but it doesn't become a thing. You know, it doesn't manifest itself as an external talent until later. And you're in middle school, and you know, kicking out the jams, as they say, which is kind of, I mean, it's pretty cool because a number of things wrap around that. You know, first of all, you're comfortable enough with yourself to perform. A lot of people don't manage to get to that point, especially a lot of creatives. A lot of creatives are singular talents and are, you know, maybe shy or suffer from, you know, some measure of shyness that keeps them from being social creatures, and especially in terms of performance. So, I mean, that's a pretty cool thing. So, I mean, how long did the group stay together?
Well, we stayed together 6 years. We were doing the so-called Chitlin circuit. And by me being a minor, my sister, she sang as well. And we did some backups for some pretty interesting people. We did a backup recording for Elvis Presley, believe it or not. It's been a long time ago, but we did, you know, you would record in one spot, and then, of course, they would, you know, take the recording somewhere else, and then he would put his voice to it. So, you know, we did a backup for him. And, you know, I was on my way to the Apollo Theater in New York City, and this was a few days, I'd say maybe a week or so before Christmas, and you know how cold it gets there. And it was so cold, so icy on the roads that our scheduled performance was, they couldn't schedule it because everything was shut down and everything was so cold. Yeah. So I missed that. But I'd say we did our thing, so to speak, about 7 years until everybody disbanded. But it was a good time. It was a great time. I really enjoyed it. I got to get out and I got to see the fans and the people, and it's nothing like it to get out front on the stage and see these people and, you know, these screaming people and everybody just being happy and having a good time and, you know, swaying with the music. And, you know, back in those days, it wasn't, you know, like rap or hip hop or anything like that. It was just smooth rhythm and blues, soul music. So it was great.
Well, I mean, that performance art is seductive because first of all, you get immediate gratification, which is something you don't get necessarily as a writer. And I mean, you can really see, the reaction that people have. You can tell if you're good or bad or average or having an off night immediately, rather than, like for me, I published my first book, and I didn't know for months, whether or not anybody was going to like it at all. And that's a little nerve-wracking, but I would imagine being up front like that is a pretty cool experience anyway. And you were how old when you were doing that?
16, 17 years old.
Yeah, see, exactly. Mm-hmm. How cool is that? And then you go from that, you're in middle school, and maybe a little bit older, and then where did you take the turn to more like creative writing? Not necessarily, the books. The books came out when the books came out, but what was the evolution of your writing ability to get to the point where you were creating, whole universes and populating them with the people and the stories that were in them?
Well, as I said, as a little child, being the ninth one growing up, in between two brothers, and and then you have sisters that says, go away, because you're little, you don't know what the teenage sisters are doing, how they push us little kids out of the way. I would often spend time by myself right before it was time for us to come in and ready ourselves for school. I would lay out at night and just look up, at the universe, and and it was just, it was just full of wonder for me. And I don't know if I, received my inspiration for things at that moment as a child, and then incorporated it within myself when I grew older. I didn't take any classes on writing. It was just a naturally creative thing for me. As a matter of fact, I even drew art as well. Made my own paper dolls, and made my own posters and a whole lot of things. Did a whole lot of things. Yeah. And I love I just love art. I just love art, especially the quirky art. I like that. I like something where no one you can just put your own description on it. You just the typical art where you draw trees and the sky and so on, just the type of art that you can describe for yourself. I like that, with different descriptions. Yeah.
Well, so you had this vision kind of encompassing the world above you as you laid out, under the stars. Did you have imaginings? Did your imagination populate, the sky above you with stories, with people, with, where did your imagination take you when you were, out there laying on the ground? Oh, by the way, for people who do lay on the ground and look up at the sky, remember, of course, at the same time, the sky is looking down at you. So dress appropriately. But while you're laying out there, what kinds of things were you thinking about? What kinds of, where did your imagination take you?
Even you're gonna think this is weird, but to be honest, I was the type of child that was always, how can I put this? I didn't flow with the rest of the children. I had my own ideas. I had my own thoughts, and I really didn't identify with the age group that I was in. I felt more older, per se, than children my age. I guess you could say that. I could say that. And I believe that's why I actually drew drew from being older than the other children and have just a different perspective on everything.
Well, I mean, when you say you felt older, did you feel like they were childish and your kind of your world around you was not so frivolous? Or, I mean, did you feel displaced from people who were your age? I don't want to sound like a psychologist because I'm really not.
Well, actually, I felt that I had to blend myself in with them because I felt like I was not part of their world. You know, that I was into my own grown-up world, and I had to blend in with my peers. You know, maybe to satisfy them into not thinking that, wow, she's like, you know, weird or whatever, you know. So yeah, so I had to come. I guess I just had to come down to their level. Let's say it like that. I had to come down to their level.
Yeah, no, I get that. So I mean, while you're doing all of this, okay, so you're laying out. You feel displaced, you know, in a kind of a maturation sense from the people around you, things like that. You know, what I'm trying to get at is, what was it that opened up the world of creativity or creative writing for you?
I didn't feel displaced. I didn't feel displaced. I felt more that it's more to this life than what I am living in. Even as a child, I thought that it was much more to this than what we're dealing with. And, you know, that just, you know, gave me a reason to, I guess, seek it out and, you know, have the feeling to give me the reason to create what I'm trying to find. That, you know, that I know that it's more to life than what we're living. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. You know, I understand it. You know, I didn't feel that when I was younger, and, you know, I came to writing so late. So, you know, that part is different for me. But I do understand, you know, not always feeling in step, you know, completely in step with everybody around you. As a matter of fact, half the people who listen to this show think I'm nuts. But,
well, you know, that creative people, you know, they do feel like we're nuts. You know.
Okay, I'm going to cling to that excuse. Yeah, no, I'm going to cling to that excuse. And when they start getting on me, I'll say, look, I'm creative. Back the heck off. So, all right. So, what was the first thing you wrote?
Ooh. As I got older, or as a kid?
Well, let's talk about the first significant thing that you wrote, where you looked at it and you said, "This is, you know, kind of, I guess, like the inauguration of your, you know, the current mode of writing that you do now." You know, when did you come to that? I mean, I'm not saying when you started your first book in the trilogy, but, you know, it sounds like you've always had a creative bent. It sounds like you've had a great imagination, and you know, which your writing bears out. So, you know, at what point did you kind of, I don't want to say awakened anything. I don't want to say anything that you're going to refute, but, you know, where did all this get started? I mean, was it a manifestation of what you did as a youth, you know, when you were younger, or, you know, did you kind of grow into it?
Well, I grew into the sci-fi fantasy part because I always had that in me. You know,
right.
I just didn't come to the realization of it until actually 2010. But before that, it stemmed from writing plays at school for my drama classes and for us to put on stage then. and it was, it was comedy. I did a lot of, I like comedy. It was comedy drama,
right?
And then I ventured into drama, because of course there was a lot of it on television, and that's what was happening back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, and so my really first significant thing that I wrote was a novel called I Found My Sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's drama, and it's about this young woman. It was basically the sort of a tell-all story about me. It was a biography, so to speak. And of course, I wrote around it, to make it, really, really, scream out at the young women these days to be a strong woman, because
right.
you have to be that these days. And then after that, another book was called I wrote called Baymanet, and of course it was about a strong family that had to come together during some adverse times. And of course, those were both drama per se novels. Nothing like what I've done today.
Okay, I was about to ask that. Did they have any kind of science fiction bent to them or fantasy bent to them? But it was kind of like contemporary drama?
Contemporary drama, yeah. I would say that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Nothing with sci-fi. Even though sci-fi is my genre, that was for me just the writing experience to manifest into what I am doing now. This is what I've always loved to do, even as a child, laying on my back, looking up into the universe, and having some experiences myself dealing with sci-fi, science fiction, which wasn't science fiction for me. This actually happened to me as a child, back in the days where before I was in school, even kindergarten, when I was at home with my mom. And in those days, parents, they really took care of their children. They really, really did. They were really, strong and adamant about their children. And so I would have to nap every day around 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I would actually have to take a nap. So this particular day that my mom sent me in my room to take a nap, I found myself up in the ceiling looking down at myself in my bed. And, as a child, I didn't understand, what was happening to me. And then, finally, I just drifted back into my body. I don't know how long after that. And the next thing I knew, my mother was waking me up. And it was, it was like 6, 7 o'clock at night. So that's how long I had slept. But it was, of course, it was noon. I knew when I went to sleep, but when I woke up, it was dark. So that was really my first experience dealing with the supernatural and sci-fi. So, and that, I guess that carried me on to now. I've always been interested in that. But of course, along the way, I did have some experiences with these contemporary dramas, just kind of feeling my way through.
So, at what age were you engaging in astral projection?
5, or was it 4? Somewhere along in there. 4 or 5 years old, before school.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And far be it from me to doubt you at all. I don't, because a lot of things happen to people that are inexplicable, and especially with kids. Kids.
Yeah, with children. Mhm.
And people talk children out of having an imagination, oftentimes. To try to whatever they call it, socialize them or make them fit in or what have you. But that, I mean, that's pretty cool. So you had this ability, or I mean, did this happen more than once?
Well, as far as I can remember, it only happened that once. But once I became learned into the sci-fi, astral projection, the supernatural, I kind of developed some of those traits myself as an adult. So, as far as I can remember, that was the only significant incident that I had as a child.
Mhm. But it was enough to fire up your imagination.
Exactly. I could always tell when my father was coming home. We knew he would be coming home every day at 5, but not to the point to where he would be walking right into the house. I could tell that as a child. And my mother had this ability to be able to tell you things as well. So, I don't know if her ability may have trickled down to me, but it maybe did, I guess. And of course, my oldest sister could see. She was a seer too, and she still is. So she could see things and do things naturally.
And well, I'm kind of curious. Do her, or does her ability and do some of the things that she's done as a result of this? Is any of that reflected in your?
Is any of it reflected in me? I'm pretty sure. It is. This is going to be really strange. The beautiful artwork that's done on my trilogies. I don't know if you've seen my novels, the book.
Yeah, I'm looking at them now. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. The beautiful artwork was done by a very talented young man, Tony Quaid, and he's never seen me before in person. He had never saw a pic of me, but my hero, Femi, in the book, I was sent. Oh, he's a work for hire, and he sent me some pictures of when we first began this project. What I think she would like we would like for her to look, and he sent me this one particular picture I loved it so much that I said, that is her. That is Femi. I like that. And I don't know what drew me to that picture, but finally I sent some photographs of myself over. And it was, and of course, I'm not thinking, I'm just running my mouth off like I'm talking to you. And I'm not thinking, I'm just talking. And he tells me to stop. Hold up, wait, stop. And he couldn't believe it. And then when I began to look at it and compare, I could not believe it. I am almost the exact same woman as my hero, Femi, that he sent over to me. We almost look alike. And that was a real big, that blew my mind. And I didn't send my picture over to compare it with the one he sent of my hero. It was just something that happened. It was amazing. Wow. And even to this day, it really just still blows my mind.
Well, there are a lot of people who think, they don't think it. They believe that there are dimensions to ability things that are inexplicable, things that deny any rational explanation, yet they occur. And I think a lot of that, you know, is definitely fodder for people who are creative writers, or, you know, some who maybe get to do movies or things like that. But I would be lying if I said that things in my life had happened that were inexplicable, that I had no explanation for, yet they happened anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, my belief structure allows the belief of those sorts of things to happen. As you were growing up, you know, you're one of, you know, there's 9 of you. There's all kinds of things going on in your life. Were other people in your sphere of family and influences? Were other people also aware of or had experienced similar things that you did?
As a matter of fact, you know, I never had the conversations with my brothers because, you know, men are often something else,
right?
Like sports or whatever. But my sisters, now that's a different story. We all have some type of trait that you could say was supernatural or just that was
otherworldly.
Exactly. It wasn't, a lot of things to us wasn't normal. It was more like not your typical type of human being. Put it like that. You know, we were the girls were an odd lot, like our mother. You know, and of course we wasn't looked down upon, and we wasn't put down for it. You know, because we were normal just like everyone else. It's just that when we came into our being and you know, into ourselves, that was a different story. I mean, you know, we could just about read each other's mind and tell each other what we were going to say to each other next. You know, it was like that type of thing. Of course, you know, we were a close-knit family anyway. So, yeah, so, you know, we did a lot of that. So, I know that was my life.
Yeah, I'm you know, then, how these stances around you and these kinds of things, how did your writing?
I'm sorry, what did you say? You were breaking up? Can you hear me?
I said that, yeah, all of these things that you experience and all of these things that kind of happen around your family, you know, the abilities, the happen chances, the experiences, how do they, you know, do you draw from those for your writing?
Well, actually, yes, I drew from that for my writing, as well as drawing from some of the masters that I listened to and read about, and I also drew from it from the world today, from what's happening today. And, you know, I put that together into the things that I feel like that may happen. I'm not going to say they're going to, that may happen in the future. So chemistry is like a past, present, and future trilogy.
Okay. That's how you've broken up the 3 books?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so tell us a little bit. I mean, don't give everything away, but tell us a little bit about the story. You know, what's the entomology of the story, and what kind of is the plot that moves the whole thing along?
Well, let me say this. This story is for everyone. It's not for a particular group, because what's happening is that today is that we're all in this together. Okay? I feel like that no one could get through this without the other. We're all gonna have to get together and change things. You know, it's like David and Goliath. You know, one set of group is not going to be able to change things. It's going to have to take all of us to do so. So chemistry is about the feminine energy. You know, you've heard of that since, and we've been going through that for a while now. I've seen a change in the world since 1990, or even, you know, a few years earlier. I've seen the change. And the change for me is that the feminine energy is taking place now. And it's more women out doing their thing now and having to, you know, lend a hand, you know, with their husbands to take care of the children and to work and to, you know, take care of the home. And we have had to become superwomen. And so my female character, Singing Night, is based on a superwoman. And she's having to set the world straight. You know, she is born on December 12, 2012, you know, when everyone thought the world was going to, you know, the movie 2012, you know, they thought everything was going to just, you know, and it didn't. But something did happen that was going to affect the future, and it was the birth of Femi Nine.
Okay. And so you've put together this, you know, and excuse me for calling it a mythology, but I'm just calling that out of convenience, okay? So you've put together this creative universe, this mythology about things that you already see in real life, things that you see around you, things that you see happening in our country in this time. And you, I hope I'm not misquoting, but you feel that there is a feminine energy, or that for some reason women are coming into their own in a way that is producing a heavy influence in what's going on in our world today?
Exactly. You know.
Okay.
Yes. You know, women nowadays doing their thing. You know, we're all over the place, and it's just something that's happening naturally. You know, we look at the sun. You know, the sun is the key to life, and it's of a masculine energy. You know. And then they say that Luna, the moon, is more of a feminine energy. Well, for me, the sun is nourishing the female and getting her ready to do what she has to do in the years to come. So it's not like she's becoming more masculine, you know, because we are feminine and we're going to be feminine. You know, it's not like that she's changing or morphing into, you know, the Incredible Hulk or something, but, you know, being that she's having the mentality and the wherewithal and the get up to having to be a superwoman, per se, a Hulk, but not the Hulk. You understand what I'm saying?
No, I do, because green women are very unattractive, and that's just not going to fly, at least not with me. I mean, it could be okay for other people. No, I'm serious. You know, it takes all kinds.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this. I mean, so do you see a trend that's manifesting itself where women are probably experience a social or cultural expansion of the role, or more control over, you know, societies? Is this something that's big? You know, that's that big. You know what I'm saying? It's not it's an actual. I mean, do you see it? Well, no. You tell me how you see it. Do you see it as a trend? Do you see it as something that we will be seeing more of, or it will become more apparent to us in real life, and your writing is just reflecting the kind of gestalt of what is going on with women's roles in our culture today?
Well, women have always been strong. I just feel like we're having to become stronger. Because everything is changing to the point to where women are going to have to be stronger. Due to what's going on in society, relationships. But our male, our men, we still stand with our men. We're going to, we love our men, so we're still going to stand with them. Because we, of course, me, I rely on men for strength. And also, I love to talk things out, and meet somewhere in the middle, but basically, women we have to get stronger because of.
I get you. Actually, if based upon my studies, I don't think it's a matter of women getting stronger. I think it's a matter of women maybe regaining their control over society and culture. As probably as recent as 10,000 years ago, women basically ruled all the societies on Earth, and they did that because of their feminine mysticism.
Yes, the matriarch. The matriarch
was
the head of everything.
Right, and they gained that because of the mysticism, where not only did they give birth, but they could also bleed without dying, and that was pretty heady stuff for societies and for a people who were not so scientifically based. So, and then about 5,000-6,000 years ago, men invented organized religion, essentially to take power away from women.
Well, exactly. I'm glad you said that.
And the proof of that is
the truth. I wanted to say that, but I'm glad you said that. So good.
But the proof of that is every single organized religion holds women as a second-class citizen. Every single one. And at first I thought, maybe Zen Buddhism is different. And then I had to say, okay, you stupid Japanese Negro, what is Buddha? And Buddha is a man. Well, I mean, I'm not the sharpest crayon in the box all the time, but I put considerable study into this, and women did rule our cultures. And as a result of organized religion, we have had a cascading wave of violence for thousands of years. When men, because of men's. Well, all right. I think the basic thing is testosterone makes you stupid. They've done some studies, and of course I'm probably going to lose, some of my card privileges for manhood, but this is just the truth.
Well, but, I'm pretty sure they're going to understand because it's changing every day. So
sure.
It's almost like in your face change. So I don't think it's going to lose them. I think that it's getting to the point to where they're just going to have to get on the bandwagon and join in.
Well,
because
culturally things are so polarized, and there are all kinds. I mean, it seems like every cultural mechanism out there is designed to separate people. It's designed to place people apart and keep them apart. To keep up, conflict, to foment, as a word you used earlier, to constantly foment drama.
Exactly.
where people, and so when I think about the possibility of a humanistic kind of trend where women regain some of their ascendancy in the world's cultures, there's an argument to be made for the fact that maybe that's overdue. But
exactly, and go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, in chemistry, I was going to say, Simi is the matriarch. She is the one that leads her society, basically the 144,000 that they go around the world and they gather up together, her and her king, Zuri, which, you know, they finally wed, but they're fighting together. You know, they are, but he lets her lead. You know, she is his lead. I just wanted to put that in there about the book.
Sure. Now, so you see this cultural trend, this worldwide cultural trend, and what you've done essentially is translate it into the stories of your trilogy, correct?
Yes.
And you know, was this because of your vision and because of your understanding of what your interpretation of what you see going on? Was this a difficult task to pull this together? Or was it so obvious to you that it was very, very easy to produce?
Well, not at all, because, you know, I see myself a lot in her, because I've always led, you know, I raised my children, you know, alone, and I think I did, as a matter of fact, I did very well, and I'm very proud of my girl, and I kind of patterned her after me, you know, and after my life, and you know, and it worked out pretty well considering the experiences that I had as a child, where I put in the metaphysics with this. I also, like I said, studied the masters, and there's a lot of esoteric things going on in chemistry. History, you know, past histories, you know, they go to Africa, they go to the pyramids. They learn a lot from the Dogon. As a matter of fact, the Dogon teaches them a lot of things. She already had this ability, these supernatural powers, to do whatever it was she needed. The creators granted her those powers to do what she had to do for the future. And I don't want to give too much away. You just have to get the book. And also, and they did things. They did things in order. They were never frivolous, or you know, they were never out of sync with anything. They was always orderly. They was taught the esoteric way by the Dogon, and then what she brought to the table as a child when she was sent here by the creators to do what she had to do. So basically, that's, you know. Go ahead.
Well, no, it sounds like a very, very well thought out mythology, and I don't say that to, you know, in any derisive way, but you know, you do have to have consistency in a story. You know, when you have a creative universe, whether it's based on, you know, partial reality, no reality, you still have to have recognizable elements and memes in it so that people can understand what it is you're writing and can get into your concepts and into the story quickly enough that they, you know, they suspend disbelief, they see what's going on, and you know, they don't have to sit there with a thesaurus next to them or going, oh man, that wouldn't happen, or anything like that. So when you create these stories, are they born of kind of like your inner eye's vision of how our culture is possibly evolving, or are you pre-staging what may be coming ahead to kind of get readers understanding what they may be facing in the future?
Yes, I'm pre-staging it. It's basically fiction, nonfiction. I wrote around some truths with myth. And in this book, you know, the first one, Bright Light, it starts out by telling a little bit of history. Back when Nixon was president, when Johnson was president, and you know, just different things that happened, the Vietnam War. It's you know, it starts in the prologue that way.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, you know, it goes into this military group going over into Africa, and they found something over there, and, you know, this particular group of military have to take care of this. You know, they don't want this, you know, it's hush-hush. You know, they don't want the world to know what's going on. So they send a particular group over there to, you know, squelch anything going out into the media, you know, into the news and the public. And it's a significant thing that's happening. And so all of a sudden, just these weird things started to happen. You know, with the scientists, you know, over there, and you know, they're kind of antsy, jumpy, you know, kind of afraid to let this out. So this particular sergeant major that's over these guys, his wife really is the key. And so, you know, they go through some things, whereas they have to abruptly leave the continent and come back home. And when they get home, it's just strange things begin to happen. And so they kind of go into hiding. And, you know, once they do that, you know, the military now is afraid that he will open, you know, will say some things, and of course he's afraid now, you know, and so it's a really good story. You just have to get the book. It's a really good. I can't really tell. It's basically
no. You shouldn't tell the whole story. I mean, that's why you write a book.
Right.
You don't write a book so you can come on to some, you know, jive radio show and go, yeah, let me tell you what my whole book is about, and let me reveal the ending. That way you don't have to get the book. But the fact of the matter is, what you've done is you have taken current. It's more like a speculative fiction story. So it's based in reality. It's got real events in history.
Yes.
And I'm guessing, because of course I haven't read them, because I can't leave the house because of the ankle bracelet, but I am guessing that what you do is, in addition to supplying kind of like your mythological view of, or not mythological, but let's just say alternative fictional view of what these historical events mean, and then you kind of put your own spin on it so people can kind of see a broader context for what could be going on. That's your speculative part of your fiction, correct?
Correct, exactly. And then once this child is born, of course, this child goes, you know, child goes through a lot of things herself, but she just doesn't fit in either. And so she
was she born? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
She was born on 12/21/12.
Right. And was she born in a manger?
No, she wasn't.
I just want to make sure you weren't cheating and using easy memes, okay?
No, she was born in a hospital, you know, and the nurses and the doctors were making light of it because of at the time she was born, and they were making light of it.
Yeah.
And but nothing happened at that time, so they were okay. You know, the hospital didn't shake and everything and go down into a hole or anything. You know, they were okay. But, you know, of course she grew up, and then she found out that she had to, and it was almost like that, you know, they get to a certain age to where they just outgrow everything, and they're going to have to go and find out what's happening somewhere else. And, she had to, go on a journey. And so after her journey, that's when everything began to hit the fan.
Well, the cool part of these kinds of stories is, you get a broader tapestry. Okay, so someone goes on a journey, and on the journey, obviously there is a theme of discovery, because of course that's why we all go on a journey. We go on a journey to find something better, or not better, or at least find something different, so that we can the journey gives us a better understanding of the life we lead, the life we have, and the person that we are, generally speaking, in literature. So, I mean, that all makes sense. Now, when you were writing this, since you have this...
She knew who she was when she went on this journey.
Don't tell everybody. Don't tell everybody.
I won't tell. She knew who she was. I'll just put it like
right.
that. She didn't have to find out, whatever. She knew who she was before she was even in her mother's womb. Okay. So I'm going to leave it like that.
All right, cool. So everybody buy the damn books, okay? Then you get the whole story. Now, okay, so you've done the trilogy, and I would imagine, I mean, that's a labor of love. About how many words per book, just out of curiosity?
Okay, well,
just to guess.
Well, the amazing thing I've done is the trilogy is not over. And when you open up... No.
Okay. You have 3 books. The trilogy is over. Okay? That's math. But the story doesn't end, correct?
No, the story doesn't end and the trilogy is not over. But I'll say this. The first book is, it's around 150 pages. Okay?
Uh-huh.
And the second book is like 135. And the last book, believe it or not, is 144.
So these are very accessible reads to the average reader. I mean, that's what I was getting at. That this is not some big slog, and Lord knows I will admit I didn't know a damn thing about writing a book when I wrote my book, and I it started out at like 750 pages before an editor said, "Have you lost your mind?" and cut it down to like 500, and even 500 pages is a lot of pages. So, I understand creating an accessible piece of art, a piece of work. And the cool thing is that being accessible like that, and we're going to get to that whole the trilogy's not over thing because I got a bone to pick with you with that. But but the fact of the matter is, when you can put together a story like that where people have an easy read, I believe it extends your universe and it extends your art, which makes it okay for you to say to me, well, I did 3 books, but my trilogy isn't over. And I will say to you, I just completed a trilogy, and the trilogy is over, but I have another trilogy coming after this first trilogy.
Well,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, you can say that.
Yeah, because your story, when and you said you got past, present, and future, so obviously you're extending forward your creative universe, which I think is pretty cool, because if you have a well enough populated creative universe, and I mean populated by good ideas, decent writing, especially great characters, they do pick up a certain life of their own, because, of course, even when you stop reading a story, unless it's some sort of apocalyptic story where everybody dies, life goes on.
It definitely goes on in the universe.
Right, exactly. So that obviously shows that you've got more story potential, but that your characters are continuing to evolve. They're continuing to have lives, and I said lives, not wives. They continue to create, or you continue to create, storylines around them. Let me ask you this: as you sit there right now, how long do you think this may play out? How far into the future? How many volumes do you think you might be able to do from this? And then, and which is kind of like an adjunct question, like, is this where you're going to play for a while, or do you have other creative works, maybe in a different universe, coming, from your fertile mind?
Yeah, I plan on extending this out at least a little further. I would like to go, to keep it interesting, and I'm pretty sure I can, to extend it like a Star Wars trilogy. He had 2 trilogies, correct? And so I'm thinking about at least doing another trilogy, and then, I have grandchildren, so I would love to do a children's book or 2, maybe 2 children's books.
Within the same creative universe, do you think?
Okay,
all right.
With the feminine hero, because our little girls are growing up and our little boys are growing up,
right.
They need heroes too. And so I'm really, really wanting to do an animated feature of this, or maybe even a movie. I'm really looking at an animated feature of the Kemetstry trilogy.
As you say that, let me just, I don't know if you know this, but one of the things that's happening at well, hang on, let me do this first. You're listening to the Genesis Science Fiction Radio Show, a service of the BlackScienceFictionSociety.com website. And this is your October 17th, the day before William's birthday edition. And I want to keep reminding you. And first of all, for those of you who are giving me gifts, please, please, please don't spend over $200 or $300. You're just going to embarrass me. That would not be good for a gift. I would feel funny about that. But we're talking to Seta Aset, and she has put together a chemistry trilogy. And we've got let's see, you go look up at Experience Kemetstry, and it's KEMETSTRY, experiencekemetstry.blogspot.com for those of you who are picking this up as a podcast. When and of course I forgot what I was going to say because I'm old. But one of the things that I am curious about is, as you mentioned you want to do an animated feature. Oh, that's what it was. BlackScienceFictionSociety.com. Our peerless leader, Jarvis, has put together a production studio. And one of the things that BSFS wants to do is we want to be able to do our own productions, and not have to rely on other people's help. So, one of the things that you should keep in mind is that there is a huge, huge, huge community. I mean, yeah, there's 4,400 members of the site, but there's a huge creative community that is doing stuff every day, doing their own things. It's a great community to belong to. I probably spend too much time there, but that's because I'm always in front of a computer. But these are some pretty wonderful people. So you have a great talent pool who would be a good resource for if and when the time that you want to try to put together an animated series. But let me ask you, how are you going to? Are you going to write in the same universe and make the characters and the stories very accessible to kids? And let me ask you about the trilogy. Is it, what age group is the trilogy aimed at?
Well, of course, we have. I would say there are love scenes in chemistry. We always have to have those. And I would say, and children grow so fast these days, and they know everything. I would say 15
okay.
On, or maybe 14 on. They know everything anyway.
They do know a lot, as evidenced by when I go back in the log at an elementary school and look at the sites that these kids are trying to go to. They know a lot more than they ought to know, and it is problematic. But then on the other hand, if a story is not compelling for a child, even by, sometimes you have to trick them by putting in elements that you, maybe even as recent as a generation ago, you would never put in, if you were creating a child's book. Sometimes you have to trick them into reading. And
not with my children's book that I'm going to create for trilogy. Trilogy, of course, there wouldn't be any scenes of that nature in the child's book. But
of course not.
The trilogy as it is now today, I would say between 16 and older, however older,
Okay.
So I think it's well within its means on that.
Sure. Mm-hmm. So does that mean that you're going to be putting together a is the trilogy, the kids trilogy, going to follow along as the same stories as your original trilogy, but just reworked for a younger audience, or are these going to be new original stories?
They're going to be new original stories. They're going to start as the female hero is a child, because I didn't say much about her as a child in the trilogy series. So I'm going to expand on her as a child with the children's books. Tell more about her childhood. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. And are you what kind of elements are you putting in there? Are you putting in how a lot of black writers will put in African rooted elements in their stories, things like that. What from a cultural context, how would you describe your stories and whether or not they do have historically African continent kind of influences, or are you going kind of a more purist way and talking about, well, this is the culture I live in now, and these are the kinds of influences, and these are the incidents and trends that I'm seeing now, and you're dealing with it from that level. I mean, which way? I mean, what kind of elements do you have in your mythology, in your universe, your creative universe?
Everything is in this book. I mean, I can't say one is more than the other. You have Africa, the continent of Africa. You have North America. You have South America. You have China. You have everything in these books. These people are global. These are global books, and it's more like an encouragement to all people to change your way of life, to come together and make this work and make this happen. There's a lot of oh gosh, you just need to get the book. I really want to let me say this. Okay, there are androids. There are evil things in these books that are trying to stop trying to stop people from getting themselves together. Put it like that. So
these are things that are actively working against progress, the humanistic progress that you would like to see people achieve.
Yes, and this is everyone. It's just not a certain race or not a certain group of people. This is everyone. It's like an encouragement, but then it's sci-fi at the same time. It's like wow. It's
I believe
so much.
I believe the term is big ass epic.
Yeah, exactly. You said it, big ass.
Yeah,
epic.
but I mean, you've got so much in there, and that's also, I mean, there's a brilliance in that too, because what it does is it allows you to go ahead and create constantly, because all you have to do is maybe change the setting. Here we go. Let's look at what's happening in Europe. Let's look at what's happening in South America. Let's look at what's happening in West Africa. Nobody ever talks about East Africa. Do they even say East Africa?
Well, they do say the Congo and the Nile River and so on and so forth, which is in the book.
Yeah. So being able to write a global story like that gives you a lot of fodder, and also it makes it easier for you to bring in different kinds of cultures for that, for kids who wouldn't necessarily. I mean, look what's happening in Colorado. They got textbooks there that don't even discuss slavery in the United States of America.
That's in Texas as well, right?
Texas, please. I used to make fun of Texas, but all my liberal friends down there kept getting mad at me. It's like, well, we're not all like that. And I said, well, then why don't you move your ass, why don't you move someplace else? Because, you know, unfortunately you live in, and I told people I would never go to Texas, and I may actually have to work down there.
Well, I told people I would never go to Alabama either, and here I am.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you've carved out a comfortable niche, and obviously you're very successful in your work, and that helps too. I think that if you can at least have that kind of success where you live, and which makes it comfortable for you, you're bound to have kind of an easier or better life, simply because of your quality of life, you know, is better. So I'll probably go work in Texas, but I may have to. I'm not going to even say it. It's really gross what I was going to do. But here's the thing: you have all of these different locations. You've got the entire world. If you take this in the future, you can actually go to other worlds. Or, you know, what if that project to bring people to Mars works? You know, and then there's all kinds of things that give you flexibility to write your story. So again, you know, this is a brilliant way to start your universe, because what it does is it gives you infinite scope.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Yeah. That's all I'm going to say. It's funny you say that.
Well, no, I mean it is brilliant. So let's talk a little bit about the response you've gotten so far to the trilogy. When was the first book out?
You know what? I did what you did with your first book.
What did you do?
The very first book of chemistry was Chemistry Gathering of the Vanguard, and it was on 400 pages.
Right.
And so what I did, I just went down the middle with Chemistry Gathering of the Vanguard and developed Bright Light. And then after Bright Light, I went on ahead and I did Chemistry Gathering of the Vanguard, the second half. But then Chemistry the War is a totally different animal than the Vanguard.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I kind of messed around there and did that mistake too. And I'm like, wow, this is a big book. You know, I've got 100 stories in one book. And so I just broke it down into a trilogy.
Oh, okay. All right. So you actually had the big story. I was talking to somebody earlier. I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but I'm going through my third novel now. I was, editing through the night. I woke up at 4 because I was thinking about a project I'm working on. Couldn't go back to sleep, so I finished editing the third novel. And one of the things that I noticed, which it kind of embarrasses me, is that I am so much better a writer for this third volume than I was for the first one. And I told whoever I was talking to, and excuse me for forgetting, but like I said, I am old, that what I wanted to do was I wanted to, as soon as I finish the trilogy, start working on the second edition of the first book, because I think I would do a much, much better job. You, on the other hand, you wrote a big book, and you managed to separate it into 3 smaller books, which I think probably, if you did that well, your continuity is better, the quality is going to be more even, and I think that's probably, maybe had I done that, that might have worked better, but then I would have had like a 2,000-page book or a 1,500-page book, and then I would have had to break it into 3. So, I mean, potato, people have different processes. But for what you've written so far, the reason why I asked when it was published is because I kind of want to get a baseline of how long it's been out there and what kind of response you've gotten from readers so far. So when you got the books out published, what kind of feedback did you get? Reviews, things like that, for the work that you did.
Well, on my website, I got pretty good reviews with it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at where I put it out, when I put it out, and it actually came out in August. So I really haven't gotten any feedback as of yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first chemistry, the 400-page chemistry, I got back some good reviews on that. Of course, I took it off. I took it off of the radar because I was expounding on it. So I took it. I made that unavailable, and then came out with the trilogy. But the first chemistry, I got, and it came out last year, June of last year, and I got some good reviews with it. And then when I broke it in half, I kind of modified it and added some things to it, and I took some things out of it. So it's a totally different animal now. It's not the same as the first book.
Okay.
So, and then it, by me having it out in August of this year, as I said, I haven't gotten any reviews as of yet. It's early.
Okay. So as we said about 22 minutes ago, go buy the book. Everybody, go buy the book, check it out, get some reviews up.
I mean, you can start with the first book. You can start with Bright Light. You can read it, and of course, when you finish it, you're going to want to know what's going on. I mean, because it's really exciting. Of course, the ending of the books are always an exciting part that's happening, and you want to know more. You're going to want to know more. So that's going to lead you into the second book. You're going to have the second book. And then once you get the second book and you get to the end of it, you're going to want to have the third book.
Right.
I mean, it's just one thing after another.
I'll let you in on one of the tricks that I did for my trilogies. At the end of the first two books, the first one and the second one, I put the first chapter of the next book to come up. That would be coming out, kind of like bait.
Okay.
And for those of you who think that that's an uncharitable or a cheating thing to do, I apologize. But to what you said, building that excitement is essential in maintaining your readers and maintaining their interest. The fact that you've got all three of them out there right now, I think is a huge advantage in terms of, some people have even told me, well, I say, well, have you read my second one? They go, well, I don't really want to read it until you get your third one out, so I don't have to wait until that one comes out. Or they go, and I'm not naming anybody's names, someone told me, well, I'm reading it really, really slowly, hoping that you get the other one out right away so that I don't have to wait. So, I mean, I think from a marketing perspective, it's pretty cool that you got all three out of them. And then for you, let me ask you this. In terms of your process right now, what are you doing to market your work?
Well, now this is what I'd like to do. I've never been to any of the Comic-Cons. I can't wait to do that. I've never experienced it yet. And I'm in anticipation of, going to the Comic-Cons and, selling and displaying, my books and telling a little bit about it. But the marketing, of course, I have, the website that you can go to, Amazon, you can go to Create Space. You can go to several different places, and order them. But as far as marketing, I am not at this moment doing any of that at this moment right now. It's just everything is just on the web.
Well, that's still marketing. I mean, the stuff on the web. I mean, are you a fan of social networking?
Very much so, yes.
And what kinds of? Well, I know it. Well, you've only had you out since August. This is kind of. It's a little hard to to gauge what reaction is going to be or what it is because it is such a new. The books are newly on the market.
Well, I do have a page dedicated to the Trilogy of Kemetstry on Facebook. You can go there, the Trilogy of Kemetstry on Facebook. It has the trilogy there where you can, read some of the excerpts from the book. I even have some of that on there.
Cool.
That's the page. Yeah, that's the page
okay.
that everyone should go to.
Okay, and what's the Facebook page? www.facebook.com.
The Trilogy of Kemetstry.
Okay, all spelled out. The Trilogy of and Kemetstry, for those of you who are listening, is Kemetstry. Okay, so the spelling of chemistry is a little different, although without spell check it looks fine to me.
It's saying Kemet, which is the root word for Africa is Kemet,
right?
And of course chemistry in your DNA, and your bodily makeup. This is that spells with CH. So I kind of wanted to get away from that and just go with chemistry as a whole, as a continent.
Mhm. Okay, so you've got the first trilogy out. You mentioned that you wanted to do a trilogy that's focused toward kids. What are you going to be doing next? I mean, what's the next big creative endeavor that you're going to be doing? And then, and then later on you said that you wanted to try to put together an animated feature, right?
Right. I also want to do toys. I would like to have, board games. I would just love to do it all. I even like to have. I would love to have a video game. So I would love to do all of that. That's what I want to do at this point. I'm going to also have a website on there where everyone can go and participate in some of the things that we're going to do for chemistry. Well, I want to have little webisodes, of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, me doing certain things in Zuri and the Eye Watchers, who are their soldiers, have them doing things on the website. Fighting all kind of, scary monsters and things, and fighting things from, outer space and in the universe. So I want to do that.
Well, you obviously are not afraid to think big and plan big.
Not at all.
Which I think someone, I forget who said this, but what do they say? Go big or go home.
Yeah, go big or stay home.
Yeah,
one of those.
Exactly. Okay, so are you a singular artist? Do you have anybody who kind of helps you out, who might be a collaborator? Are you doing this completely on your own? How what's your process like in terms of maybe influences or even people who you see as inspirational for your kind of work?
Well, I love, it's odd. I like Stephen King. I don't know why, but I like Stephen King. And, of course, George Lucas and, everyone that worked on The X-Files. That was one of my favorites, Of course, The Matrix is, the chemistry is sort of like The Matrix and The X-Files and the Star Wars all rolled into a ball. That's
right.
how I would describe it. And all those, and I love The Walking Dead, even though it's zombies, but I love how they put that together. That's one of my favorites. There's another show that I like. It's coming on, Archangel. I just like supernatural. I love everything that's supernatural, sci-fi. That's my favorite channel. Sci-fi channel.
Well, it sounds like all of those kinds of stories and the way that they're all done, and a lot of them are done very differently, but they all seem to be inspirational for you, in terms of driving your story forward. And do you borrow elements? And I don't mean copy anything, but you could borrow pacing, the kinds of ways that people do their their pacing in a story, things like that. Do these influences that you mentioned, are they? Would we see those influences in your work?
Well, I could say that Kemetstry could be a TV series. I could say that. It could be anything. It could be a movie, a TV series. Kemetstry is just that versatile, and it's not to a point where everything is everywhere. Everything is all over the place. It's not. It's in succession of each other. You can follow this story along very easily. It doesn't take you to the left and then to the right and then nowhere in the middle. It takes you from left to the middle to the right in succession with ease. So it's not like it's all jumbled and you end up here and then the next chapter you're somewhere else. And Kemetstry doesn't work like that. It's an easy to follow story.
And it sounds like it's mostly linear.
Yes, there's nothing in the story. There are certain elements in the story that would have you think on a thinking level. This story it's not mediocre. I just put it like that. It will have you on a thinking level. There are things in here that would really have you question, some things. Even in your life, it would have you question some things. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean that's how you keep people interested. If it's something that's engaging, that people, it's not necessarily like, we've had some stupid stories out there made into movies like Pacific Rim and things like that. Yeah. I don't care what y'all think, but it was a stupid movie. And as I've said before, and I wondered when I became my grandfather, it was just too damn loud. But one of the things that I'm kind of curious is, you've got all of these things you want to do. You want to do a video game. You want to do toy tie-ins. You want to do maybe a board game. You want to do all of these things. Are you thinking of pulling in other people to collaborate with you, or is this something that you really want to maintain tight control over, and it's not going to require others to be in on your process? I mean, it suggests to me that in order for you to do all the things you're going to do, you may have to bring other people into your universe and help you do the creative part, or at least do some of the nuts and bolts while you manage the creative process and keep your universe intact. Have you ever had to collaborate with another person, and how did that go? And if you haven't, when you look forward to it, are you looking forward to it, or do you think this is going to be a singular pursuit?
Well, of course, something this big, you're not going to be, you can, but I would suggest doing it alone because, more than, 2 or 3 heads or 4 heads is better than one. I do have a person that I collaborate with. I mentioned him before, Tony Quaid. And, of course, we're at this point, at some point we'll be reaching out to others to help us along with this, with this collaboration. So yeah, I'm gonna be looking for others. We're gonna be looking for others.
You really are interested in putting together a development team to move this entire universe forward on all the different platforms that you discussed, right?
Yes.
And if
Certainly.
people wanted to get in on and help you out, would they contact you through BlackScienceFictionSociety.com if they were interested?
Sure, that would be wonderful. I am a member of the Black Science Fiction Society, so yes, that would be great.
All right, we're just so that you know, we got about a half an hour left. Given where you are right now, you've got the trilogy out. You've got all of these other things on the table. Where do you think you're going to be, like, let's go 5 years in the future? How much do you think you could possibly get done, given the ambitious scope of what you're trying to put together?
Well, I want to go back to when I used to sing. The ambition that I had for myself was winning the Grammy.
Mm-hmm.
So the ambition for this, I'm wanting an Oscar. I mean, I just want to go all out. I want to really make this a magnificent thing to happen. I guess you could say that, the sky is the limit. The universe is the limit.
Right. Well, that's like, what's his name? Architect here in Chicago, and of course, his name is sitting right on the tip of my tongue. But he said, make no small plans.
Exactly. I don't think George Lucas made any small plans, or Steven Spielberg, or any of those guys made any small plans as well. And I feel like that, we have the creativity to reach to the same level, or get to the same level, and even surpass that level with what's happening today. I think it's in all of us to do that. So I'm certainly going to try to reach for it myself.
Oh, yeah, that's who it was. It was Daniel Burnham who said, make no small plans. And he helped put together the Columbian Exposition here in Chicago, and he was a great architect. With all of this ambition, I have to ask, how do you parcel out your time? How do you allocate your resources? Do you have a system down where you kind of have maybe a schedule of how your time is allocated? Tell us a little bit about your work schedule. How much time a day do you spend on your creative works?
Well, for myself, I do around 4 hours a day. Not 4 hours a day. I'd say 12 hours a day, 4 hours intermittent. I work for, like I take a break for about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, then I go back to my 4 hours. And then some days I just don't do anything. I'm sitting in a dark room and I'm just thinking. I'm just meditating on some days.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want, I don't create every day. It's almost, I don't know. For me, it would be impossible for me to create every day, because it for me, I have to rest and then get the flow back after so many days. And then once I get the flow back, it's just an endless creative. I'm in an endless creative state after that.
Mm-hmm. So when you're in full-on writing mode, is it, is the process very easy for you? Do you, does your mind produce, whatever you need kind of at will? Do you, do you have to struggle a little bit at it, or how is that for you when you're in full-on writing mode? So like when you get ready to write the children's trilogy, is that going to be a very, very straightforward process, or tell us a little bit about that, how you achieve what you achieve.
When I write, I get in my Jeep and I drive out to a lake, or a pond just near water. And once I'm able to do most of the time I do that. And once I'm able to do that, then everything, it just flows from there. I have no problem. It's only when I'm in an area where there's nothing, it's like a stagnant state of mind, you know, where you don't, you know, because for me, water works for me. It's like a flow, you know.
Right.
And the water makes me flow. But when I'm in an area where, you know, it's just a stagnant area and there's nothing to give you any type of creativity to work with, then that's when I have my problem. And you know, and when I'm in an area like that, I'm either in a dark room, I'm sitting and I'm thinking and I'm creating from there. Mm-hmm. And then once I come out of my dark room, my area, my creative, comfortable area, I get into my truck and I'll go through a lake or a pond, and then that's when everything flows. That makes any sense too. It's weird, but you know, I'm a creator, so that's
right.
That's my weird creativeness.
Well, I mean, does that speak to the fact that, you know, you mentioned that you see things, and not like see things like you're schizophrenic, but you're able to divine things of our nature, our world around you. So would your needing, or at least working better in a in nature, by the water, all of those things, are all of those things really aren't they connected kind of to exactly the kind of universe that you created? Exactly.
Nature is like my right hand. I love nature, and there's something to that. I mean, people really do need to sit up under a tree, or you really do need to hug a tree. You need to walk barefoot. You need to do these things. Yes, nature. That's what I live by. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So that does work for me. Yeah. I was the type of child that, it was hard for Mom to tell me to come into the house because I always wanted to be out of doors. I never was and if we had back in the day, you didn't have you had avatars, the Atari game thing. That still didn't interest me simply because, it's an indoor thing, you have to stay inside. Children back then, you couldn't get them to stay inside, and especially me, was always outdoors.
Well, I mean, a lot of things have changed in our culture today. Children as young as 10 years old, they believe they can't survive without a cell phone, and obviously things have changed. You look at the rate of obesity and things like that. You look at the lack of imagination of kids. Fewer and fewer kids are reading books. There are so many things that point to changes in our culture and changes in how kids perceive the world around them and what kinds of things are stimulating to them. So, leading them to books is something that really opens up a huge world for them, but it's not always the easiest thing to do. And it has to start young. One of the things that I was told, and it made sense, and it was something I did, was that I had to read to my kids, and I read to them all the time. And it got to the point where, like my daughter would wake me up, getting in bed with 3 books in the morning, saying, "Here, it's time to read." And I'm going, no, it's time for Dad to sleep. I said, no, I don't think so. I think it's time to read. So, if you build that kind of habit in them, you're probably more than likely going to get a reader. But not very many parents, not a lot of parents, let's put it this way, not a lot of parents do that, because in some cases it's a luxury to be able to have that time.
Well,
so,
I think,
go ahead.
Well, my generation really, I have to say, is the last generation. I just kid. When I was a child, I was an avid reader. Loved to read. I taught my children to read, and when they were coming up, they loved to read. But so nowadays, it's hard to get children to read, even though my daughters still carry on the tradition of reading to their children. But after that, I don't know. Hopefully, my grandchildren will continue the tradition and read to their children. So, we're still reading. Although I don't read that much, but, the particular authors I read, my grandchildren are reading. Hopefully, as I said, they'll carry on the tradition.
Right, and for those people who do, like, people tell me that when they do conventions, when parents bring their kids, the kids get involved with comic books because they're very accessible. It's not a long read. There are pictures, there's visual stimulation, and sometimes creating, comic books lead kids to read in a way that's seductive to them that they don't even realize what's going on. So, I mean, you mentioned you wanted to do an animated series. Have you ever considered maybe translating your universe into, the comic format so that it's more accessible to younger readers?
Yes, that's also been on my mind as well, to create a comic book series with Trilogy. Yes, that's on the plate too.
Yeah, it does sound like your characters and your universe would lend itself well to the comic book format. And, of course, as I said, that I think that's probably one of the most accessible formats for kids in order to get them into reading and into, checking out exactly what it is your stories are about. So that might be great. And, you look at the artwork for your covers and things like that.
It's beautiful.
It's gorgeous. It really is. And it's interesting, for those people who would poo-poo and say, oh, never judge a book by its cover. Well, unfortunately, that's what people do. They do judge books by their cover. And if you can capture someone's eye, they're more than likely to pick it up. So I think that you've got so many ways you can branch out, that it appears that you're going to have some decent longevity in your creativity as long as you continue to expand upon the base that you've already laid. So, I mentioned where do you want to be 5 years from now? You said, well, you want to be doing everything 5 years from now. I mean, that's maybe not, okay, get about 30 people to help you. That might do it. But, I mean, even though it's very ambitious, what it is it's also forward thinking.
Well, even though I don't get to the top of the pyramid, hopefully I'll get close to it. I'm just putting it out in the universe that hopefully we'll get close to it.
Well, don't get so anxious. There's no shade up there.
Well, I'll bring an umbrella. But, right. I love Saul. He can chime down anytime.
Now, do you get much encouragement? You mentioned, teaching your kids how to read and things like that. Do you get much encouragement from your family for what you're doing and the creativity that you're engaged in?
Well, my family has always told me to go for it, and they stand behind me 100%. And then, and that's all I need, and, once I hear that, I'm off and running.
Right.
I mean,
what do they think of your work? What have they said? Because I would imagine they've read it, they've been closer to you, and, since it's been so short amount of time that you've managed to put get your work out there, what do they think of your writing?
Well, the feminine energy came to me, and it also came through my youngest daughter at the same time. And
right.
once she heard what I wanted to do, she was a very, very big encouragement in my life. she says, Mom, go for it, because, what you want to write about and what you're thinking, as far as, your novels, I stand behind you 100% because it's happening today.
Well, I mean, obviously that's great encouragement. Now, did she read the trilogy?
Yes, she did.
Or not yet?
She was she's read The Bright Light. She hasn't got to the second and the third book simply because she's a mother herself, and and a wife, and dealing with her children. So she's got to the first one, and she has copies. So when she gets to the second and the third one, she'll let me know. But she loves the first one. She loves it. This is it's, Mom, this is good. This sounds good. This is great. So
well, yeah. It's not so much an ego boost, but it's an energy boost when people can encourage you like that.
Well, I've always been a go-getter type, and all encouragement for me is great. I love for people to be honest, and to even say, well, you need to improve on this, or if you could expound more on this. I love the input. I don't refuse anyone's input. If you think, as I said earlier, 4 heads, 5 heads is better than 1 head. So, all the encouragement, that I can get, and certain particular things that, I may need to change and expound upon, I welcome it.
So if you were going to, because you've been through this process so quickly, if you were going to give, like a younger person some advice about writing, based upon your own experiences, what would you say to them?
I would say go to a quiet place and meditate and think about what you want to do. Because it's beautiful, it's lovely if you have the natural creativity for it. But if you don't, and you have to struggle on what you want to write about, or what you want to do as far as writing, it's kind of hard. So I would encourage them to think about it, meditate, see if you really want to do this, because sometimes it can be discouraging, when you feel as though you don't get the results you want to get, and really think about it before you initiate becoming a writer. Just kind of, work with poems first, work with the, don't dive too much into, the full-blown novels, and just kind of work with poems and, kind of get your feet wet a little, before you, really dig in and see how you, see how you like it.
Well, how about you? Did you have formal training in writing? Classes or seminars or a teacher who doted on you or something like that. What about you?
Well, my drama teacher doted on me. That's why she put me in charge of, writing the plays and so forth. She was always wondering what I would come up with next.
Okay.
She was, very curious. What is she writing about this time? Which had the whole auditorium, just, laughing and then crying and whatever.
These were for your stage plays, right? These were for your stage plays that you did?
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. I didn't have any formal training. I graduated high school. I had a very good friend. Of course, she's out in California right now. She's a PhD. She wrote She wrote for a particular university that she worked for. She wrote grants. And, and I kind of looked at some of her work and, kind of, she put books. She's an author, but her theme is medical. She wrote medical books. So she come to me one day, and she said, it's interesting, because she read some of my work. And she wanted to kind of get out of the medical writing and wanted to kind of get into some drama. And so we did a small pamphlet together. It wasn't anything. It was like 100 pages, 95, 100 pages, of the story. And she was really interested in that. And she kind of, set things up for me, how to typeset and so forth and so on. So she was kind of like my teacher, but really not my teacher.
Well, more like a mentor, right?
Like a mentor, yes.
Uh-huh.
More like a mentor.
Yeah, you and I have a lot in common. I have the finest sixth grade education that the Chicago Public School System can hand you out. And, like I said,
that's all you need with your creativity. You got creativity. That's all. You don't need, if it's already in you, you don't need anyone to tell you that it's already in you because it's already in you.
Yeah, but I think some of that drug use that I did during the 70s helped an awful lot with me, with that creativity. But I think that when I encourage kids, younger people, when I say kids, I mean anybody under 30, I guess. But when I encourage them, I do encourage them to learn the fundamentals because a lot of times, the fundamentals will carry you through when you may have writer's block or something like that. How to put together a story, first act, second act, third act. All kinds of ways to hone your writing. I still read books on writing novels. Some of the works of John Gardner, an American novelist, helped me a lot. One of the things that he said that I'm having the most trouble with is if it doesn't move the story forward, take it out. It doesn't belong there. And sometimes that's hard. Sometimes when you put a whole lot of time and effort into writing, I did something that I've never done before. The last thing I wrote, it wasn't going where it needed to go, and I actually had to throw away 4 chapters. And for me, it's still a struggle to write and to have to throw away, something like that. It was the hardest thing I've ever done as a writer.
Well, I've done that. Right, I've done that, but I've only done that when I edit the book. When I see that something is not working with the rest of the story, and then I'll take it out while I'm editing it. But when I'm writing it, it for me at that moment, at that time, it feels like it's flowing. But once you go back over 2 or 3 times and you look at it, and it's not flowing, that's when I just, take it out at that moment.
Right. Well, see, I mean, and that is. You have no idea, or maybe you do, but that is such a useful skill because a lot of people cling to, and I was just like that, and I probably still am to a certain extent. I cling to my words because sometimes they're so hard won. They're so hard fought to get those words out there to make the story go, and then. When I sat there, I'm looking at where these last 4 chapters went, and I it's like almost like losing a leg or with your best friend or something.
Well, then you take that leg and you put it in your next book.
That leg.
You put it to the side and you put it in another book.
Yeah, like that was going to work. No, unfortunately, the leg died. Okay, Mr. Hayashi, we have some good news and some bad news. Well, what's the good news? Well, the good news is your story is really, really humming along. And what's the bad news? Well, these last 4 chapters, these are dead and stanky, so you might let them go. So, it's writing. Writing is a singular pursuit. I envy people who can collaborate because being able to share a creative experience like that, I think is something, I don't think I have that yet. And that looks to be like one of the hardest things to do, which is, be able to collaborate on that level. That's one of the reasons why, I'll be at a writing convention with Stephen Barnes, who works with Larry Niven, one of the better sci-fi writers out there, and they do stuff together. And I have no idea what that. I mean, when I meet him, I'm going to ask him how is that process, because maybe I could turn out better work if I had a collaborator. But I mean, there's so much to writing, and there are so many ways to do it. Everybody's got their own style. Everybody has their own process, and to see what you did, you wrote this one big-ass book, and you said, nope, this is not going to fly exactly like that. Let me break it up into a trilogy, and you have an instant trilogy. I mean, how cool is that? So everybody's process that I've talked to is different. Some like you go out, you get in the Jeep. Well, shoot, having a Jeep, that's cool right there. And you get out in the Jeep and you go out and you get out where you're in the middle of nature, and arguably maybe where man's influence is slightly less than being in a city, like here in Chicago. And so, that's your process. It frees your mind in a way that allows you to do whatever it is you need to do. Yeah. Well, it brings you back. It centers you. Yeah. So, it sounds to me like, well, you shouldn't be moving to Chicago because you got to drive a long way before you get to like some nature, where you don't hear cars going by, where you don't hear horns, where, I only say this as a joke, but where, you're sitting there and somebody gets shot down the street. That doesn't really happen. It really doesn't. But you've identified your process. You manage it very, very well, and it's obvious because you've managed to put together an extraordinary work in an incredibly short amount of time. I mean, that's pretty cool. So more power to you, and I wish you great success. We got about 2 minutes to go. I have to do a few announcements here, but can you hang on until after the recording is over, and then we could chat, and people can type things into the chat room with you? Can you do that?
Sure. Yes, sure.
All right. So anyway, we're coming up on a couple minutes to the hour, and we actually started on time tonight. There are a number of things that I'd like to remind people. Obviously, this show is live every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern. And, most of the time I'm here. Otherwise, someone else is filling in who is probably equally or more brilliant than me. So always check out this show. Second of all, there are a number of things going on with BSFS. The first is things are moving along very, very well for the Earth Squadron, which is our first 3D animated movie. It's a feature movie. A lot of things are coming out. Jarvis has been popping up characters for the last couple weeks or so. So there's a lot of that happening. For those of you who may be picking up the podcast but don't spend much time on BSFS, there's such a wealth of talent there that if you are a creative in any way, shape, or form, you can't go wrong with talking to the people there unless you really think you're such an insular talent you don't need anybody else, in which case I apologize for bothering you. But, I mean, there's so many great, talented people who work there. Jarvis Sheffield, the creator of the site, I'm thinking he's like a living legend now. And, I've had a great time there. I encourage everybody to support the site, support everything that happens here, and be sure to tell your friends because the more the merrier. And with that said, let's see if Jarvis can jump on and give us his good night. Unless he's downstairs eating pizza.
Downstairs eating what? Actually, I just had some ice cream.
Oh, man, and you didn't share?
It's low fat. I know you didn't want it. I know you want the full fat.
Yeah, I do. I really do. I'm not going to lie. I've done very well this year. This year, I'm getting in better shape, things like that, and not so much like some sort of proselytizing about, being some sort of health,
Health nut.
health nut. But, I'd like to be around to finish these 7 books I got to write. And so, you got to take care of yourself because oftentimes someone else is not going to do it. So anyway, take it away, sir.
Okay. I just wanted to, as always, thank everyone for participating on the show. Whether you logged in on the chat room, whether you tweeted the information out, or if you were a gracious host or a guest tonight sharing your knowledge with us on the site. And I just want to reiterate to please get active on the site, share the site with all your friends and family members that are interested in the science fiction genre. We're really trying to make a dent in the sci-fi realm by creating our own lane. So please support us in that effort. We have the site, we have the radio show, the magazine, the anthology series, and we want to do more things, but we can't do that without your support, as they say in public access television and things of that nature, NPR. But we need your help to continue to have this thing grow and mature, and so we all benefit from it. That's the benefit of a community. Black Science Fiction Society isn't about one person. It's about a community of people working together of like mind. So with that, thank you, everyone, for participating in the show, and you're appreciated. You really are.
Great. I would like to say, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, please.
I would like to say one more thing before we go off the air. I want to make sure that everyone goes to my correct address, website address, and it's www.experienceKemistry.com. That's the site that everyone needs to go to, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
And be sure to spell chemistry, KEMETSTRY.
Correct.
All right. With that, I'm going to stop the recording, and if we want to continue talking, you feel free. 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 You feel free.